Limbo.
Hi, everyone. It's Nancy Reyes with For Your Canine.
And Joanne Stoikey with For Better, For Worse.
Let us know you're out there. Today we have a different topic. I know we always try to bring you different things in the dog world. So today, one of the things that we're going to talk about is lure coursing and just coursing in general with sight hounds. And I know a lot of people do lure coursing and fast cat. That's a big, hi Karen. That's a big sport up and coming. Joanne and I went and did it with our dogs once. We haven't been able to get back out there and do it. But so today we just want to introduce you. Hi, Patty. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to introduce you to a little bit about the sport and all the ins and outs of it. And we're going to get going. So today we have Aryn Ping and Suzanne Popson. They're the experts in coursing, and they're going to fill us in about the sport and what's the ins and outs of it, and who can do it and who can't, and all that, and kind of give us some really good information about what it really is, because people have ideas but they don't really know. So we're gonna know today. So Aryn, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and how you got started and all those details.
Hey, I am Aryn Ping. I have been coursing dogs for probably 6 or 7 years. I actually don't have hounds. I have alternative breeds that still love to chase bags. I got started because a friend told me about an event where you just take your dog to the line and they chase a plastic bag. And they usually love it and go crazy for it. So I think we drove like 8 hours because they were pretty rare back then. And took my Doberman and he loved it. So we got hooked. And so I've done it with that Doberman who's now gone. But I've done it with every dog of mine that I've had since then.
So, Aryn, a funny story. I did lure coursing. That wasn't fast cat. It was lure coursing back then with my min pin. And they didn't use a bag. They actually used rabbit fur. So she actually caught it. And it was quite difficult to get it out. Yes. So the bag is a better thing for sure.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah.
There are some dogs still that need to wear muzzles. Otherwise, they will grab that bag and not let it go. And dread.
Yeah, so, it took us like 5 minutes to get that thing out of her little. And she was she's a 6-pound dog. But yeah. It was rough. So yes, I just remembered that because back then they didn't have fast cat. They just had regular lure coursing.
Right.
And she just caught that. So, okay, Suzanne.
So I'm actually laughing because if your dog had been getting like judged, that would have been big thumbs up for enthusiasm. So that's good. We love that. We love that prey drive. That's what it's all about. So I'm Suzanne Popson. I live in Des Moines. I have Afghan hounds and also deerhound, Scottish deerhound. And I have been coursing dogs now for 7 years, although not all of them successfully, but we try. Some dogs like, woohoo, and some dogs are like, yeah, it's fake. I'm not doing this, so it's kind of a crapshoot, but yeah. So, and I absolutely love it. It's really my favorite dog sport to do.
So how did you get started because you had sight hounds, or did you?
Yeah. So back in the day, my mother was in Afghan hounds, and lure coursing as a sport for sight hounds started in the mid 70s. And so she was one of the early adopters with her Afghan hounds and was out on the field learning how to do this with, hand cranked pulleys and all of that. And so I saw it very young when I was a kid, and I just it's really such a spectacular thing to watch. And so when I came back as an adult and got my dogs, I decided, you know what, I really want to do that again. And so here I am. So
nice. So we actually have our first question that I think was a really good segue into all of this. So there's lure coursing and there's fast cat. Can you guys kind of talk about what each one is and what's the difference between them?
Sure. So regular coursing is for sight hounds, any breed that's found eligible by AKC and ASFA and UKC, although I'm not sure if they still do sight hound racing only, but that's a whole nother thing. AKC has events for dogs that are not sight hounds if they want to participate in a similar event, and that would be cats, which are coursing ability tests, and then fast cat, which is just a regular straight line. Coursing ability tests are similar to sight hound tests where they run in 300, 400, 600 yard courses. I tend to describe it as fast cat is a fast straight line, and coursing ability tests are a fast drunken line. You just go everywhere, but you come back to where you started. But like with sight hounds, they compete against one another, whereas fast cat and coursing ability tests are dogs competing singularly. They just run against themselves for speed and time. Suzanne, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you did it really, really well. I think that with sighthound coursing, they're judged on different things like their speed, their follow, their agility, things like that. So it is a judged event. Where with fast cats and cats, it really truly is either timed or plain and simply a pass fail. So, but the beauty of it all is with the regular cats, you've got a situation where you've got a dog trying to outsmart a bunny. So they're trying to follow the bunny and catch the bunny, where with fast cats, it's all about how fast they go. So you got that little speed demon rat terrier that wants to go, chase the neighbor cat. They love fast cats. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Not naming names, no dogs specifically.
So funny, Kim just says, can really small dogs do this? Yes, Kim. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
They're just chasing a lure, right? So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I suspect that that little Serena might be pretty good at it. She's got lots of attitude. So, or who'd be really good at it, like the best is Snooki. She'd be awesome at it.
Which, not to get off topic, but which dog was it at my trial?
Snooki.
Kim was doing a nose work trial, and I just hear from a distance, drop it, drop it, drop it. She's got a dead bunny in her mouth. So
Snooki. That was Snooki.
That was so. Yeah, get that dog enrolled in some fast cat.
Seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Kat. So tell us a little bit about the other venue for sighthounds.
Legra.
Suzanne.
Okay.
Legra?
Yeah, so Legra is a little bit different. There are a couple of different Legra type events out there, but really truly with lure coursing, they're, like I said before, they're being judged on so many different attributes and skills and innate abilities. But with Legra, it really truly is like a race. And so it is something that's like which dog is the fastest, and it's about 200 yards, or it could be an oval track, which is a different name. But that's when they're racing against each other. So it's really very different than like what you would think about greyhound racing or something like that, because it's all sighthounds that are larger sighthounds. And it really is focused on, they're chasing a squawker 200 yards, straight line, on the grass in a natural environment. And they absolutely lose their marbles over it. It's really exciting to watch because these dogs get just so fast. I had no idea my dogs could move like that. So it's pretty exciting. So, yeah.
So let me ask you a question just about sighthounds in general. Mm-hmm. So they develop these, right, at chasing the bunny. The bunny bobs and weaves and goes all different directions, right?
Right.
Do different sighthounds hunt differently, right? So I know when you're watching the coursing tests, right, some will go real wide, some will actually try and make a super sharp turn, some are going to try and cut off the bunny. So how do they hunt differently in the different types of breeds of sighthounds?
Aryn, do you want me to take that one?
I can answer a little bit.
Go ahead.
It's so interesting. If you guys ever have a chance to go to a sighthound trial, truly go, because you'll be able to clearly see the difference between how the dogs hunt. When you have if you say you have 3 Ridgebacks out on the course, you'll notice that one dog takes the lead, one will go wide, and one is going to follow, because in their natural instinct, their plan is to catch it, and then they all have their own role to play. It's very interesting. And so every breed was developed differently for different purposes. That's why I always tell people, if you want to see something really interesting in terms of how dogs communicate and how that inherent ability really shows itself, hit a sighthound trial and just watch how those dogs that usually don't know each other are working together to get to an end point. For chasing a plastic bunny, can you imagine what they would have done in the wild with some of that?
You hope there's 3 bunnies. That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
That is why there's 3 bunnies, right, on the line. That's why we do 3. And I think that was perfect, Aryn. And I think that, for instance, some dogs are endurance runners, some are sprinters. So you really have to look at their running styles differently. The one thing you will see when you said some kind of cut off a lot and try to get ahead of the bunny, things like that. There are some dogs that literally cannot watch any kind of run of a course before they're on the course because they learn it just by watching it, and then they cheat. So there are a lot of really amazing coursers out there that cheat like the dickens because they think they know where that bunny's going to go, and so sometimes we'll switch it up, for best in field or whatever, and they're like, okay, the bunny went this way last time, and all of a sudden, bunny goes this way, and they're like, oh crap, and they're like, trying to catch up. So it's really cool to watch.
So they have 3 different bags, if you will, out there.
Yeah, all on the same line, but we do 3 so that each hound has a bunny. It kind of helps avoid fights at the end of the line.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, so when it stops, each one has one to dive bomb and.
Yeah, but they all go after the same one anyway.
They really do.
It's the thought that counts, right?
Yeah.
So is that strictly for sighthounds? Is that strictly for sighthounds, Allegra, or is it for any breed?
Strictly sighthounds. Strictly sighthounds. Yeah.
Okay. So you'd have. So could you go through sighthounds, it's Afghan hound, greyhound.
Oh, let's see how good I am. Yeah.
I see the Google fingers coming out.
Here I go. I got to count. So you've got your Afghan hounds, and I'm just going to go regular lure coursing, okay?
Yeah,
Not Legra, because Legra's a little bit different. But regular lure coursing got Afghans, Basenjis, Scottish deer hounds, Borzoi, Salukis, Irish wolfhounds. Did I say greyhounds? I can't remember if I did. Whippets, Rhodesian Ridgebacks. You've got who am I missing? I'm missing Pharaoh hounds, Ibizans. Yeah, the bouncy ones. And then Pharaoh hounds.
Trineco.
Yeah.
Pedangos.
Yep. What?
Pedangos or sighthounds?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so AKC is weird, and they still count. Yeah, imagine that. They're still hounds, but they work differently than what you would say a true sighthound is.
Lay down.
They're more terrier-like, aren't they?
They're more hunting. I think like true actual hunting.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
Which is like similar to like Norboten specs, which are also coursing eligible, but they're like truly hunting dogs. So all of the dogs at least have in common the fact that they were meant to chase something down. They just might all do it by a different way. Some dogs are more sight, some are more scent. A lot of them are just like, give me that thing, I'm going to kill it. Because that's what they were bred to do. But they want to run a long way to do it. So they get stuck in, they get tossed into that coursing eligible. And you get to see a lot of like cool, rare dogs that you wouldn't get to see.
Right.
Do what they're supposed to do.
I think that was the first time I saw a Pharaoh hound was at a cat where they were running sighthounds first. So
there's also with ASFA, which is the American Sighthound Field Association. They also have Galgos and Oswak and Slugi and a couple of the other breeds as well. So they
Silk and Wind hounds.
Silk and Wind hounds, which are very cool little dogs. So
I didn't realize. I knew the Rhodesian Ridgebacks were hounds. They seem so chilled. I'm surprised. I'm like, they're sighthounds, really? It's like, yeah, I didn't know that, but it's like it's just hard to imagine because the ones we see are so chilled and relaxed, and they don't really you know.
I think you didn't show him a bunny. That's why.
You should come to a sight hound trial and see how many people it takes to pull a Rhodesian up to the line.
Yep.
Because they're big and strong, and when they a lot of them that see that bunny, they can be really hard to hold them back.
I think that's where the pony walk started, is Rhodesians, because if you want to get your dog to the line, you literally have to straddle them and kind of walk them out like you're riding a pony. And you'll see a lot of other, like, especially Doberman people, because otherwise the dog will take you. I mean, you're going whether you want to or not. So, the pony walk is kind of started with Ridgebacks, I think. So.
Oh wow! Because yikes, yeah. I mean, I know they're big, strong, but yeah, Carrie, the ones I've seen have been chilled. So,
My Doberman Bam, his girlfriend is actually Carrie's female Ridgeback, and they are one and the same. They are the same energy level, and whew, it's a lot of dog, let me tell you.
So Karen asked a question: How do you keep your dogs conditioned? Like now with the weather, do you just run them more often? How do you keep them conditioned? Because let me ask you a question. So some of the sight hounds you said are sprinters and some are more endurance, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you, for those that are more endurance dogs, how do you keep them in condition versus the sprinters, right? Because it's a different, because for the sprinters, you can do certain exercises. So I'm just wondering, how do you guys keep your dogs in shape to do that?
Well, Aryn, you want to go?
So I think so our coursing season here is generally April to like October, and then I think after that we kind of just let the dogs chill. So if we lived in the South, I'm sure I'd have a much better answer than it's winter, we don't do anything. But there's always I still try to take my dogs for walks. I mean, walks are great for endurance as it is, especially the Doberman. Right. The Doberman.
Yeah.
And then a lot of dogs are great on a treadmill, and that's a great exercise for them. Flirt poles are great in the snow because it builds up resistance. And so you can really get them going with that flirt pole, and they've got some nice resistance to that. Some people do swimming.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I give them a lot of free time in the yard if they want to run around. I mean, the whole point of having a sheepdog is to keep my Doberman entertained, right? Make her get some exercise. Otherwise, she'll just stay on the couch the whole time.
Of course, because the Dobermans are so chilled.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What do you do, Suzanne?
Pretty much all that. The snow is actually excellent for my dogs because it really truly does help build up some endurance and some muscle tone, things like that. My dog's biggest exercise program this time of year is getting off the couch to get a cookie and then getting back up on the couch to eat it. Mm-hmm. So we do have to, come like March or so is when we'll start really kind of refocusing on that kind of exercise because it is hard. It is hard this time of year.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we live in the Midwest. So yeah, we have snow, it's cold. I mean, so we, just with dogs that do any sport, keeping them in good shape is hard, but like running, it's really hard. That's gotta be getting them used to running and all that has got to be hard because there's not a lot of places you can go where they can run leash and all that stuff. It's challenging.
Yeah. Usually at the beginning of the season, before and after their first run, I will take them to the massage therapist just to really make sure that they're loose and that we're really taking good care of their muscles and giving them a chance to warm up a bit. So,
I was just gonna say, it brings up a really good point, which I think is great. I think when you do the cat testing of the all breeds, right, the fast cat, the cats, you get a lot of weekend warriors coming out, right?
Yes. Yep.
And it can be really dangerous for some of these dogs to go, because I mean, imagine if you haven't done anything all winter and you go out and you're going to run 100-yard dash as fast as you possibly can, without stretching, without any of that. So how important it is. So I know you guys start before you can even be cleared to run, right? You have to show up for inspection and so can you talk a little about that, what you're looking for and, kind of some of the things you should do to get your dog warmed up before they run?
Aryn?
So when you go to inspection, first rule of inspection is make sure that we're doing it somewhere where they can't see the bunny if they've done it before, because that will just throw it all off. But really, when we're inspecting a dog, we're just making sure they're not in season, because we can't let them run if they're in season, unfortunately. And we're really just looking to make sure that their gait looks really fluid. And there's not anything outside of what you would naturally call like a hitch in their gait. Like dachshunds move much differently than Dobermans. And so you have to get used to being able to look at a dog and look at their body structure and the way that they're moving and say, that looks fluid and normal to me. And then they can pass inspection. And with the weekend warriors, I mean, that's a great point. Like, it is so important that even though our dogs might be doing barn hunt or agility or obedience or whatever, coursing is a really taxing sport, regardless of their age, their size, or how often they've been doing it. It's just really important to remember that we need to keep them flexible and you need to keep them warm. And it's not something that we can just run out there and run them really quick and then off we go. Again, it's really important to get them used to getting that endurance by working up to the distances that we're going to be running at, that they're having as much time as necessary to get comfortable to be able to run so we aren't hurting ourselves. I mean, it is a sport where injuries can occur, and that's why for our club, we try really hard to put the emphasis on safety for the dogs, because nothing is more heartbreaking than to watch a dog get out there. They're doing what they absolutely love to do, and just some kind of freak accident happens and they can't do it anymore. So we try really hard to make sure that the dogs pass inspection, that they are as sound as they can be when we inspect them. And that's the other reason why every time before they run, they have to be inspected. We can't just do it once a day. It has to be every single time, just to make sure that they didn't pull something during that first run. So it really is about stretching and warming up your dog and knowing what they're capable of that day.
So how many runs do they get in a day?
They can run. This is where there's a big difference between sight hounds and non-sight hounds. Our cats and our fast cat, they can run once per trial, whereas our sight hounds can run up to 4 times.
Oh.
So those dogs need to have the endurance necessary to compete multiple times over that kind of really long distance to be able to win, to continue on. It's 4, right, Suzanne?
Yep, you're good. Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Depends on if there's runoffs and things like that. Sometimes they'll run even more than that. So it kind of depends.
Oh, what constitutes a runoff?
If you have 2 dogs that tied in their score, so you run them again to see who gets a higher score the second time, or sometimes the third time. Or I've seen Ridgebacks run 6 times for runoffs. Wow. Yeah. And there's one dog in particular that pops to my mind that performs just as well on a 6th run as he does on his first run. So it's pretty spectacular to watch. It's cool.
Wow. Because you have to see that they fatigue after a certain number of runs.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if you have an Afghan hound, usually they'll go run off into the forest anyway. So that's like the equivalent of like 5 or 6 times too, which is what my dogs like to do. Just go run off and see ya. Bye. They're always good for comic relief.
So let me ask, are the competitions and where it's safe and they can run but they can't get away, or you just have to have a good recall on them?
This is where your recall training comes in, because you will not find a sight hound trial that's fenced generally, unless it's in a very, very large park that's already fenced. You're literally relying on their ability to follow that plastic bag, and then when the machine stops, which does happen because the line breaks, you don't want your dog meandering off because there's generally no fence. So recall training is very important. The same way with our coursing ability tests, like there's generally no fence for that either. So between conditioning your dog, I mean, really, it's recall and conditioning. Those are what is really important on both of those.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, because that would, because it's like they run so much. How is it that they would find a place big enough fenced in if that's so your dog has to have a good recall to do that, right? Because the fast cat in the AKC, you see it, sometimes they have no fencing and all that stuff, you know?
Right. And I think the
And
important thing to think too is that with some of these dogs, the point is that they're keen on the lure. So the goal is that they don't get distracted by things around them, but that they're focusing on the bunny. So a lot of these dogs that have not the best recall still manage to course beautifully because they're so intent on the bunny that when they come in, they get caught and boom, it's done. So you got to know your dog. You got to really understand what they will and won't do.
So let me ask you, so how do you specifically, besides going to a trial, how do you specifically know if your dog has that ability to course besides going to a fast cat trial? I mean, is that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna follow up on that, right? So like with sporting dogs, right? Sometimes they do wing on a string when they're puppies. Or are you interested in the bird wing? Do you guys have anything like that with flirt poles or anything as babies to see who's?
Yeah. You see a plastic bag. Yeah, plastic bag on a flirt pole. I mean, really, because all on a non-sight hound, all we want is prey drive. If your dog can follow a plastic bag on the end of a flirt pole or a buggy whip, you're usually pretty solid. Some dogs look at you like that's a plastic bag. You're dumb. But generally speaking, you can switch that plastic bag to a squawker. You can throw food in that plastic bag. Anything to get them interested in that plastic bag is really what you're looking for. And if you have a dog that's in no way, shape, or form interested in that, a lot of clubs have fun runs where you can just come out and see if your dog will chase or not. And that's what a lot of us do with puppies is we'll take them and we'll just do a quick little short run. And if that bag moves and the puppy goes after it, you're pretty solid at that point. That's really all we're looking for is interest in chasing something.
Hey, Suzanne, have you ever seen a dog that isn't interested in chasing a bag?
Yes, plenty. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of them just don't care to. You know, it's intrinsic in these dogs, and they really truly that is how they're hardwired in their DNA. But just like with their herding dogs that choose not to herd, you know, they're just like, yeah, that's too much. That's too much work. And sometimes, but the other thing too is sometimes the first time you try it, they don't do it. The second time you try it, they don't do it. The third time, all of a sudden, the light bulb goes off, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, now I get it. And the other thing too, I think, is that with some dogs, like with sight hounds, they are independent thinkers. So what they do without any kind of human interaction, right? So they have to go out into the field, they have to bring back whatever they're supposed to, and nobody's telling them what to do. If you have a dog that is very, very trained by verbal, and you know, like the human tells them what to do on pretty much everything that they do. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for them. You'll see them get to like halfway through the course and look over at mom and like, oh my God, is it okay that I'm out here? You know, you really have to give them a chance to build the confidence to do it on their own.
Oh yeah.
I've seen quite a few of those, right? And again, non-sight hounds at events, but you know, where they're super key on that bag and then they take off 10, 15 feet and they're like, oh, you're not coming. And they'll run back to mom or dad. And then it's hard, right? So they really want the bag, but they're more worried about their owner, right?
Very much so. Very much so. The other thing I will say too, as a sidebar, if you have a dog that the umbilical cord is still pretty short, fast cats is a good place to start. But if you, I always like when people start with regular cats first, because sometimes what will happen is that if you run them on fast cats, then they go to regular cats and they get to that first straight line at the end of the first straight 100 yards and the bunny turns because they've always run fast cats. They don't realize that they're not done, right? So they don't expect the bunny to keep going. So it's nice if you do regular cats first, because then they realize to chase the bunny, it's not just 100 yards, I'm done, let's go home. You know, where's the baby? So
there's Lori said she has an Isbin that won't chase a toy or a bag, but will hunt live prey all day long. Well, yeah,
that's my Afghans. Yeah, same. Absolutely. They know the difference. They're very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So oh my God, I had a really good question and it was in the top of my oh my God.
So while you're thinking about that, I know Gay asked a question to Aryn about what is it that you run at Waterworks over 4th of July, which is in Cedar Falls? Is that the one over 4th?
The one we're running over the 4th of July is a coursing ability test. So it's the it's the fast drunken line.
All breed?
Yeah.
As well as sight? Do you do as well as sighthound?
Yeah, that's what's nice about coursing ability tests is that it's open to all breeds. So it's good practice for sighthounds if they need help running alone to start with, because it can be kind of intimidating as a young sighthound to go out there with 2 other dogs that you don't know. So it's also good practice for dogs to understand that bag is theirs, and it can be theirs even if there are other people around when they get to an actual sighthound trail. So yeah, the cats are all breed.
Okay.
So when you have the multiple dogs out there that some may not know each other or whatever, I hope most of the people, I'm assuming most of the owners of the dogs do know that their dog's not going to hurt anyone. I mean, if something happens, it's because, something, but you wouldn't, well, I hope people deliberately don't let a dog that might have issues with other dogs out there. Is that, or how do they test? Do they test for it? Do they check it?
So usually dogs that aren't great with other dogs will end up being muzzled, but that's not always true either. You're going to be really frowned upon as a sighthound person if you do have a dog that's going after other dogs instead of the bags. Got it. And like intentionally trying to cut them off or hit other dogs or interfere. Like interference during the trial, I mean, that's taken off their score as well. Everyone is trying to run their dogs in the safest manner, I think. But with any kind of dog activity where there are groups of them without human interaction, it's just, we really rely on each other to keep things on the up and up. Suzanne, would you agree with that?
Yeah, sometimes as a judge, you can tell when the dogs are at the line. There's a little bit of like eyeball smack talk happening between a couple of dogs, and so you can kind of keep an eye for it when they're out on the field. But generally speaking, they can get dismissed or excused per any AKC event. So if they are super naughty and they misbehave in a way that can be a danger to other dogs, they absolutely will either get excused or dismissed. So.
Okay. So people make a name sometimes. You're like, oh, great, Suzanne's here with her Afghans again, right? I mean, so you would know who they were a lot of times, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm sure your Afghans are very nice.
No, actually, my bitch is really naughty. Not in a bad way, but she likes to play. And sighthounds will oftentimes play really aggressively, and so it can be misperceived. They can grumble, they can smack talk each other, but as soon as she likes to go up and bite her brother in the butt when they're running, and so it's really, really naughty. So
she's adorable though.
I think Lisa Costello has a little whippet that's a pretty naughty. She's still young, so but yeah, she'd probably go out there and just play anyway. But she's very adorable, very cute, but not in a bad, not bad dog, just very, very, like, it's all about playing and having a good time, even though it'd be interesting to see them in their natural state, like when they're chasing a lure or whatever, because she'd probably be all business then, because we've just seen her in other sports, because she's a feisty little whippet.
So Carrie had a question, and this goes back to when we were talking about like the smart dogs cheating, and I mean, it sounds like judging is very objective based on the judge, right? So what do they expect to see? What do they see? Can you talk a little bit about how, like, are you a judge, Suzanne?
I'm actually in the process of trying to get my judge's license. So yeah.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about like what are you looking for and what, like, how scoring would work? I mean, because it is objective for the most part, right?
It really is, and it's very, as I'm learning this process, I realize that there are, obviously you have to consider the breed and the hunting style. So some dogs you will think that they're cheating when really, like Aryn said with Ridgebacks, they're not really cheating because they're cutting wide because they're doing their job. So you have to know if you're seeing a dog cutting or if you're seeing a dog thinking and making decisions. And sometimes dogs make bad decisions. And so if they make the bad decision, then they will get docked in their points. But it's really kind of a total package. I mean, you're looking for the dog that has the overall best coursing ability, and then you break it down by agility. So for instance, if there's a dog, there's a sharp corner, this dog took the corner, didn't even slow him down. This dog went way wide out on the corner because it didn't have the agility to take that corner tight. Those are the things that you look at, and you really do judge accordingly. So there's, I've had dogs that have taken a tumble on the field and you would never know it. The dog just like roll up, zzz, you know what I mean? So that's good agility. That shows that the dog is made of rubber and can keep going. So, but it's a fascinating process. I'm loving learning how to judge. I think it's really cool. So I hope that answered your question, Pat.
No, that's good. I mean, it's hard to answer an objective question, right? It's like from your perspective, this is what you're looking for. So,
yeah, and every judge does see it differently. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because we do, for Sighthound trials, we have 2 judges. And so that's how each of them are judging the same runs. So that's how we
okay.
Yeah. So then if something doesn't make sense, or they can check with each other, see what each other's opinion was. But each dog is getting scored from 2 judges at the same time.
Okay. Nance, I think we lost your mic, my dear. I see you talking, but I can't hear you. So, yep, really. Good lip reader. So,
I'm not sure.
there you go. Yep,
there you are. You're back.
I'm not sure what happened there, but okay.
So Sadie asked a question here too, which I'm cracking up about because I think my craziest dog is the Doberman. I can't do the pony walk because he will take me out. So the last time I did a cat with him, the judge was like, I don't know what it is. Dobermans as a breed, because they're just the craziest non-sighthound breed that we see out here. They scream, they yell, they can barely wait to get out here. I'm like, oh, yeah, I know. So, I mean, it was like all the strength I had to keep him. So Sadie asked a question. She tried UKC, and her dog snapped his collar before his turn because he was so excited. She was worried about how crazy he was. So she asked, do you have any tips on training some self-control when he sees the bag? Yeah. I don't think it's about self-control, right?
So to be fair, the sport is about instinct. I totally get that question, but we don't want to take away that enthusiasm. We just have to manage it. And managing it is generally get yourself earplugs, apologize profusely if your dog's loud, hide. We have a lot of people that hide. Like, I have to hide with my Doberman before I go up to the line because she's a screaming, twisting monster. No one wants to listen to that. You got to make sure you have good equipment. Marv, good equipment is... Good equipment is really important because things like collar snapping, that can cause issues. So if you have a really enthusiastic dog, it really is getting a great reinforced coursing slip lead. And then if you need someone to take that dog up to the line with you, you can totally do that. You'll see some dogs that have someone on the neck and someone on the butt because that's the only way to get the dog to the line.
Wow.
Without it pulling somebody over. So it really is the opposite of our other sports. It's all about teaching you how to manage that dog's enthusiasm versus us teaching the dogs how to manage themselves when they're in this drive. Because it really is a hard built-in prey drive. That's what it is. And if we try to squash that too much, they're going to start thinking of this, they're doing something wrong. And we don't want that. We want them to see that bag as theirs, and they're going to haul as much butt as they can to get that bag. And we talk about this every time at one of our trials too, because you get newbies and their dogs freak out and they're so apologetic. And we're like, I can't even hear your dog barking. Like, what are you talking about? It's just,
yeah, right.
Get good equipment and get help. And that's really probably the best thing that I would ever say for that. I don't ever, whenever I hear someone trying to correct their dog for any of that enthusiasm, I'm like, just let them have it. They're going to be out there. Some of the dogs for Fast Cat, they're literally chasing a bag for 7 seconds. Let them be psycho for that time. Like, let them have that because their time on the bag is so short. Like, let them have it.
Yeah.
And just apologize. Bring snacks. Like, be nice
Yeah.
to other humans, you know? But it's really get a good equipment and know how to manage what helps keep your dog semi-manageable. If that means hiding, if that means keeping them crated away from the field, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Suzanne?
So
I was going
speaking
to say,
of
and if you're,
equipment, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say,
No,
if
go
you're
ahead.
new and you don't have the equipment, a lot of people do come to these for the very first time and don't have equipment. And I will say that with our club, I can't speak for everybody. With our club, we always have extra equipment. Somebody will lend you a slip lead if you want to try it, because a lot of people try it without a slip lead at the beginning, and then we teach them how to use a slip lead, and they're like, "Whoa, that's a big difference, right?" So we will always have people out there who will lend you a lead, whatever you need to get started, and so you can learn how to do it properly. That is kind of a pretty big darn deal, and I'm glad that Aryn brought that up, because it's ultimately, it's a safety measure. So
Yeah, and so that's what I'm wondering though, right? Because a slip lead, when we think about it, it's not the Mendota slip leads that you're used to, right? These are a piece that slides out, so the dog has total freedom to take off from the line. So where can one look up good lure coursing equipment if you're interested in buying a good lure coursing slip lead? Or do you have any favorite sites?
Aryn, do you have anybody you like?
I really like Best in Field. I like people who actually do coursing themselves, because they are used to making equipment for strong sight hounds.
Okay.
And they are usually really well versed in the best way to help kind of protect the dog's neck as well. If you get something really, really thin, that's a lot of pressure on their trachea. So you want it to be wide, you want it to be comfortable. I like Best in Field. I think it's BIF Blankets and Leads. They do a great job. I think there's there's another one, Suzanne. I can't ever remember.
There's a couple of them. If you guys want us to, we don't necessarily have access at the moment, but we can certainly send you guys some links of some good. And you can also just Google dog lure coursing equipment or dog lure coursing slip leads, and there's I think there's like 3 or 4 probably pretty good resources that I would trust out there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm sorry, Nance, what were you going to ask?
Yeah, no, Hamilton Hounds. Yeah, we'll look it up and all that, because
they're good too.
So how many trials does your club usually have in a year?
We typically have 4 sight hound trials. We usually have a weekend for cat tests and then a weekend for fast cat. We have extra trials this year because our club is hosting the first national LCI specialty with ASPA. We're also kind of hosting the ASPA II, which is an international invitational, where dogs have to qualify for points and then they get to enter, and there's generally a lot of dogs there. If you want to see a great sight hound trial, that is in Cedar Falls in May. So I think we're going to try to run 2 fields at once.
Yeah.
So there will be 2 fields with dogs, with groups of dogs running at the same time. That's a great location to be able to just sit back and watch different breeds run. But we try and have 4 sight hound trials and then cats and then a weekend of fast cat.
So what's the name of your club, so people can maybe look it up and stay informed?
We have a Facebook group, Iowa Coursing Association. We welcome everyone whose dogs would like to chase bags. So sight hound or not, we welcome them. We welcome everyone. We're more than willing to help you if it is your first time. We're usually pretty great about answering questions. We really just like to share the sport with people. And just that kind of, I don't know, like Suzanne said, it's just watching. It's awesome. It's just great to be able to see dogs do something that they're supposed to have instinctually.
Yeah, and I would say definitely don't make assumptions about your dog based on their breed or if they're a mixed breed, because obviously mixed breeds can run in cats as well if they've got a PAL number or whatever. But we have a couple of bulldogs that run cats, and the first time I saw it, I didn't think I was going to stop laughing for like the entire 2 minutes the dog was out there. He loved every minute, and a couple times he'd start walking. He's like, I'll get there when I get there. But boy, he got there. And he's, he's really, really good. And there are just every breed you can possibly think of. When you see a Neapolitan Mastiff with all that skin running after the bunny, and it's just like in slow motion, it's just with all this just like slobber coming down the field, and it's spectacular to watch. So please don't assume that your dog can't be great at this, because they probably can be.
So Patty asked if anybody can come and watch without entering. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Or
yeah.
It's outside, and we run in every condition except for lightning. So we're generally almost always out there. And COVID, apparently, that's the other thing that we can't run in. But we're always outside. We're always running, with the exception of lightning. So whenever we've got a trial out there, you're more than welcome to come out. Just keep our social distancing and keep our masks on, really.
Yep. And I know we skipped a couple questions back here. They're quick ones. I think I'll just answer them. Do dogs need to be AKC registered? Yes, if they need to be AKC registered, they're competing in anything AKC. Does not mean they need to be a purebred AKC dog, though. They offer ILPs and AKC partners. Yep, like Terry had said. So Grace, no, they do not need to be purebred dogs. So. Yep.
So let me ask you a quick question. Going back to the muzzles. So do you guys preemptively train your dogs on a muzzle or no? You preemptively train. Yeah. I'm kind of a big believer that all dogs should be muzzle trained, regardless of what they do. But given in your, since you guys are into the sport and you do so much of it, do you guys preemptively train your puppies to be comfortable in a muzzle?
Yeah, and we use basket muzzles. So it's very open. It's very easy. You'll see a lot of different people actually design them with all these different colors and awesome flash all over them. So it's just another way to decorate, really. But the dogs need to be trained to accept it. And a lot of the time, once it gets on the dog, they know the bag is coming. They get very excited for their muzzle. But it is something that we have to train when they're young.
Okay.
To accept it. Yeah.
So when they're puppies, when they're puppies, you guys put those muzzle on them and stuff, right? So that they get used to it.
Yeah, and there's no requirement to wear one. It's really individual preference. But you'll see some sight hounds that need them because they try to eat the bag, and we don't want the plastic getting eaten, and so they'll end up wearing a muzzle. And I've never seen a sight hound that once that muzzle comes on, they're like, get it off my face. By that point in time, they're like, let me get the bag. I know it's coming. Let me get that dang bag.
Okay.
So they're usually very happy about putting on their muzzle when they need to.
And you guys introduced it pretty young, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So whether they need them or not, right? You just preemptively just train them on a muzzle. And if you need them, great. And if you don't, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sarah's asking, if you're encouraging prey drive, does that cause any issues outside of the sport? Are there things to look for that say I probably shouldn't try this with my dog?
No, I don't think I've ever seen anything truly terrible happen from that. I will tell you that now that there are plastic bags floating down the street in the spring, you should probably be aware of that. That can be an issue from inside the house. My dogs have been coursing throughout their lives, and that to them does not transfer to like cats. It hasn't transferred to any other animal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Same.
And that prey drive they already have does come with them hating squirrels, as with most dogs. But I haven't seen it gotten to a point where it's unmanageable or it created a monster.
Right.
like an unmanageable monster, if that makes sense. The dogs are smart enough generally to know that it's a plastic bag, but they still, it's that instinctual, I see movement and I can get it, that we're really triggering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, is really interesting when you talk about behavior, because I know Nancy and we use an assessment, and we'll work puppies, and you can sort of tell when they're puppies whether or not they're going to have that I will shake and kill you when I catch you, or it's just the movement. Aryn, I have a Doberman as well, so I'm in that club, and it's so funny, right? The screaming and the craziness, and as soon as that lure stops, my guy, he's like, he'll stand over it, like, go, 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 but
Go.
he doesn't reach down and grab it and try and kill it, So
Yeah.
it's the motion that gets him. So
Yeah. Well, and that's true of my my shepherd, my male. He chases our cats, but he never hurts them. He's very good with them. And it doesn't teach him prey drive. Unfortunately, it's not something you can teach. Some dogs might like the movement. Other dogs might like the movement and the killing part. But there's a way. I would agree that even with any sport, dogs are pretty smart. They figure out they're doing lure coursing, or they're doing, they're supposed to do that, or they're not. They just don't decide, oh, I'm going to chase and kill everything, right? If they're going to do it, they're going to do it anyway.
Right.
I think
and you'll see it very young.
Yeah, a great example of that too is with herding dogs. Oftentimes, they will have great prey drive on the field. They'll chase, chase, chase. But as they come in for what we call the kill at the end, all of a sudden they start crouching and start herding as they come in at the end. So their other instinct automatically kicks in. Yeah. So it's really very exciting to watch. It cracks me up every time I see it. But they just they hit the ground and they're like going forward, gonna get it. So it's pretty cool. So sorry, I'm having some phone issues here today. So, but yeah.
So let me ask you. So are there other breeds like the Doberman and the maybe Shepherd, and some of the sporting that you might see some different behaviors when they're when they're doing lure coursing that toward the end, right?
I've seen Vizsla's point.
Always.
Mine did.
I'm dead serious.
They're on the line and they're totally pointing. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's awesome.
It is. That's why it's so fun to watch them, because sometimes you don't even know what behavior is going to come out, and then you see it and you're just like, well, that was the best thing I've seen today.
Yeah.
My last one, actually, we were running at yours at Cedar Falls the first time you guys were there, and my Vizsla did half of the course, and a bird flew across and she went dink, and the course, or the lure kept going, and she was like, gotta get the bird. She just completely left the bag and went for the bird. So good Vizsla, I guess, right?
That's awesome.
Oh.
So what do you see? Do you see like the working dogs, like the shepherds, or I don't know if the people are doing it with them, Malinois and stuff? Do they tend to be more direct in their when they to get the bag? Probably, right?
Yeah, I would say those guys tend to be more direct and more of a follow. I have watched herding dogs that, like Suzanne said, they will come near the end and they will crouch. I've also watched them actually herd the bag the entire way. So they're actually staying on its flank and moving with it instead of actually just chasing to chase. It's very, I mean, it's very, it can be very entertaining.
Fast.
So, I mean, it's so cool to me to know that, like, all of these different breeds, they all have some kind of prey drive, but they also have other things that we've bred into them.
Sure.
That you see these random behaviors and you're just like, now I know it. That was awesome. I just watched the Vizsla point a plastic bag. Like, so yeah. And like Malinois are usually very on it and very fast.
Yeah.
We don't have as many German. Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah,
they're usually very on it and very fast. I'm trying to remember if we have. I mean, we have a lot of dachshunds, and so they're usually, it looks like bunny hopping, but they are really running as fast as they can. But they usually grab the bag, and it is a shake and kill. So I mean, you just have to kind of see what you expect, and then sometimes you don't. But that's neither.
So let me ask you: the speed of the lure, is it the same for every? Is it a certain speed for every dog, or no?
No, that's why an experienced lure operator is super important, because they are the ones in control of how those bags move. And if you get it too far ahead of a dog, they can lose interest. If you get it too far ahead of a dog, they can lose the bags, especially if they are a short dog. So getting an experienced lure operator is also a very important part of being both safe and getting the most out of your dog in terms of performance.
So that's really interesting. So when you start looking at some of these machines, I mean, you're talking $4,000 for a cheaper machine, right? I mean, they're very expensive. How like they can be very dangerous too. You can get burned by the cord, right, that goes around. And I mean, when you guys are setting up in the morning, what do you do? You're looking for holes, and you're looking for any kind of hills or movement. So what do you do when you set this up? I mean, how do you make sure that the course is as safe as it can be for everybody?
Our lure operators will make a map based on the location. And then we start with that map as kind of a blueprint, but as we walk the field, we make adjustments. For sight hounds, both sight hounds and for coursing ability tests, we're actually our rules on how tight turns can be, how many you can have. So each one of those blueprints, Siberian Huskies, man. Each one of those prints starts off as an ideal, and then we will walk in the course in the morning. We're making sure the grass hasn't been cut enough. There aren't a bunch of holes, or in our case of our park in Des Moines, goose poop everywhere. We're trying and judging, like, if the terrain is entirely flat, like you're looking for hills, you're looking for places where issues can occur, is really what you're looking for. In terms of, like, line burn is pretty common. Dogs will cross that line. They don't generally care or notice. Pulleys are another issue. If a dog steps on a pulley, they can actually break a toe. So we really try to make sure that those courses are safe for the terrain that we're running them on. And that's really what we're looking for in the pre-dawn hours, in case anyone wants to come help us do that.
Yeah.
Usually before dawn. So come out. Wear your waterproof boots.
Always boots.
Yes, always in the morning, because that dew. But that's really what we're looking for, is just anything that we think would make a poor course, and make either that would make it a hard course to run, an inappropriate course, or anything that could lead to dog injury, because we really don't want that.
So do you guys have, like, in dock diving, they have where in between the waves, in between the jumps, they have it where people can practice. Is there such a thing in lure coursing? I was just curious. Yeah, because in dock diving, like in between at a competition, in between the waves, they allow you, I don't know, a few minutes to practice, or they schedule a time during the day where you can try it and see if your dog wants to do it or not, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dogs can't see the course before they run it.
Okay.
So we would have to have it. Yeah, so we would have to have a separate line set up, and we don't, just because equipment takes a little bit to set up, and there's generally no extra room that would be safe for that. So we're just relying on them to read the bag.
We do sometimes, though, at the end of a trial or at the end of a cat test, we will set time aside for practice runs or puppy runs. And so that's usually at the end of the day if the equipment is held up. So if someone does want to come out and just give it a whirl, reach out to us if we're going to be able to do practice runs that weekend. We absolutely will let you know.
Okay. Now, I was just curious, because I know for that I thought was so cool about dock diving, because no other sport really has that. You know what I mean? Most of the other sports, it's like, either you do it or you don't. But it was a pleasant surprise when I got to the competition, and they allow you to pay like $10 or $15, and you get to try and see if your dog will even go in the water and stuff like that. Right. Because a lot of people don't have access to a pool or a big field with a with a lure. So,
Mhm.
so I was just curious if that was something that you guys would do. So, okay, that's great.
No, but I will say this, from being a competitor at some of this stuff, these guys usually have really, really, really small crews, and they're out there all day. So for a fast cat, like Aryn said, you might have been waiting an hour and a half for your 7-second run, or for a cat test, sometimes they have 2 trials in a day and you're there all day for your 2 minutes. These guys, I've watched the crowds where they're like, can we please take a bathroom break? Because they've been out there since 7 o'clock this morning, and now it's 11:30, and like we really need to pee. And people are like, oh my gosh, right? So I'm not kidding. Every single time I've been there, every time. And so, these clubs are small and they don't get a lot of help. And so it's so much fun for you and the dog, but these guys aren't running their dogs either, most of them, right? So just be kind and offer to help so that somebody can go pee or go grab a lunch break or whatever. So it's just stand back and watch how much work these guys are putting in the hot sun, and how many dogs they're running through in a day, and be kind. So
speaking of that, how many dogs do you usually run at a trial? If it's full?
Sighthound trials, I think our last AKC trial, I think we had over 80 entries.
Yeah, about 80.
Yeah, and then for the ASFA, I want to say it's usually like 300.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
for the
for the
II,
II, that's why we have to run 2 fields, is because the amount of dogs we have to get through. So for our cat Icelandic man. For our cat test, we usually set like a 65 dog limit, just because of how long it can take. With fast cat, you'll generally see about 100 dog limit. And those limits are just to help us make sure that we can get everyone in the day and still account for us having to go to the bathroom or eat. And then if we're having issues with the machines, we can still get everyone in, even if it's a little bit delayed.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much. This has been great. Anybody have any other questions that you might want to ask? Thank you for bringing us into the world of lure coursing and coursing in general, because these are sports that aren't in mainstream, but they're really fun, and they're really something that maybe people wouldn't know that
so much fun.
That they're there, and they're a lot of fun. And some of us go, do it. But like, I'll be honest, I didn't realize that you guys had that many competitions during the year and all that. That is really good to know. It's
Can I show you a psycho picture of how much fun the dogs have? You guys are going to crack up.
Yes.
So the eyes and the lures right there that he's chasing. So I mean, that's psychotic. So they lose their minds. Dogs really have a good time at this. So you guys are in Iowa, right? In near Des Moines. I know you do some Cedar Falls. I know you do a little farther out at like Omaha a couple times, don't you? So
and Mason City as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh wow.
No, well, not so much that direction. Yeah. Mason City.
Yeah.
And I know there's the Greyhound.
And just a quick reminder for those of you who like titles,
there's a lot of them.
I think we're losing
Suzanne.
She's frozen.
Yeah.
What?
We got you back, I think, Suzanne.
Yeah.
No.
Am I frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to remind Aryn, do you want to talk about how to get a title?
Yeah, I can do that. So our coursing ability tests, you only have to pass the course 3 times and you get a title. Fast cat, you're gonna have to earn points. Fast cat's a little bit more complicated because there's time with your dog's handicap, which earns your speed, which earns you points. And so there's a little bit of math involved. But cats are super great because the dogs pick up on it so quickly, and you only have to pass 3 times. And generally in one weekend, you'll have 4 tests. So you can make one weekend and get a title. And the entries are generally pretty cheap. Ours are like $20. So it's nice to be able just to take your dog somewhere and let them do something where it doesn't require you to spend like a year practicing trots, finishes, and how to do a blind cross. It's
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I might I might go watch one, because I would love to just go for watching dogs, because that's my thing. Because it's something I haven't really done. So yeah, that'd be very interesting for me. So
we have our club schedule up on our Facebook page as an announcement, so it has date by date what we're doing.
Oh, great.
And like I said, we welcome visitors. Just, keep away from everyone, keep your mask on. We're always outside, so if you want to watch dogs run and ask questions, we're always available to answer. I can't tell you how many times we've stopped someone driving by and they're like, "What are those dogs doing?"
Oh yeah.
And then you get like a half an hour conversation with a stranger because they're just like, "You just let them chase that plastic bag?" Yes, that's literally what we're doing right now.
That's what we do, okay, with our dogs.
What we're doing. We're nerds. What can we say? But usually, it's just fun. It's fun to watch dogs do something all on their own. Really.
Right. So Judy, they have a Facebook page, Iowa
Coursing Association, right?
Iowa Coursing Association on Facebook.
Yep.
And I would say,
what are the title levels in FastCat?
BCAT, DCAT, and FCAT, and then they start to repeat after FCAT.
Okay.
Each one has a different point requirement. BCATs are 150 points. You can expect on average that to take 5 trials for that, depending on how fast your dog is. And then DCAT is the next level. I think it's 500. I think FCAT is 1,000. Whereas for coursing ability tests, it's CA, CAA, and then CAX. And CAX is 25 passes, CAA is 10 passes, and your CA is 3 passes.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I think for non-sighthound people, right, AKC is probably the website is probably the best place to go to see what's happening depending on where you live.
Yes. And there in our region, you'll be able to find FastCat basically every weekend, I think, in our region.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially if you live in like Wisconsin. So be on the lookout for that. Go to the AKC website, do an event search for your state. You'll be able to come across what FastCats are entered. I know we have a bunch in Iowa coming up as well. Our club only does just the one for right now. We might add another later in the year, but we've only committed to the one that we're having in April so far this year.
More, Aryn, more.
Everyone says that. What people don't understand is how much effort that takes.
Oh,
I know.
So,
we get it. Like you have no idea.
We're primarily a sighthound club. That's what our goal is. That's what we promote. We love being able to do the extras because it's happened before where people really get into their coursing or their FCAT and then they discover there's a hound for them, and then you can move on to sighthound things. So our main thing is always the promotion and preservation of sighthound breeds and their natural tendencies. So generally speaking, we're going to have fewer kind of all breed activities, but we are doing LCI, which is ASFA's version of it's very similar to a coursing ability test that AKC offers, except that it's scored like their sighthounds. So they actually have judges that are judging them based on the same rules they do for sighthounds.
Oh, cool.
And we're having 3 of those this year.
And wait, you said that's open to all breeds as well, or?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And it's newer. It's newer. It was, I think, it was kind of what we were doing on a trial period, probationary period. No. But it's been accepted, and that's the American Sighthound Field Association. And they have a schedule that has LCI out there for those dogs.
That's really nice to be able to share, because it's such a fun sport to be able to share it with those of us who, have crazy Dobermans or or other breeds that love this and go crazy for it. So
right.
Yeah. Right. Nice. Well, thank you guys very much.
All right.
We really appreciate all your insight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Aryn.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.